You see, there is something called the common sense of inheritance. When you talk about the common sense of inheritance, for some of us who grew up in the villages, you'll realize that if the grandfather was a teacher, there's a possibility that the entire lineage will have teachers until something else happens, until a rebel turns up, who sometimes can even be cast out of the family.
Yeah.
If the patriarch or the matriarch was a doctor, there's a tendency of. So when we talk about families in this context, of course we have the UK where the family is in charge, but what motivated the matriarch or the patriarch into that profession or that position? So if the patriarch or the matriarch joined politics because they had already seen the opportunities in political spaces, that will be the line of mentorship.
So why is it different with Britain? Because Britain seems to be doing well.
You see, I always tell Kenyans, I use this example that, for example, if George Washington had grabbed the whole of California, the way our founding father did, there's a possibility there wouldn't be Hollywood. I still insist on the motivation and the kind of mentorship systems and lines that we've created. So you realize that even these children, as they are being introduced, as they are like in Kenya, there are places where you feel like we have a hereditary democracy, where someone dies and it automatically it's either the wife, and people will cry about it, either the wife or the son. So when this son is being inducted into that position, there is something that is being told to do. That's the problem we have. And that's why we have these successive problems. And that's why in politics you hear allies, you hear stories like allies. These allies are not based on national or global interest. These allies are based on the fact that if I have someone who is in my corner, then it's easier for me to move around. And that's the difference between some of those developed monarchs, or even where families have been in charge, and countries like Kenya. And when I talk of family, I'm not being specific to the surname. I'm talking about we have biological ones and we have political ones that are just passed around among us close allies. And these are some of the things that are created by a political system that has legalized them. And I think it's a sorry state. So some of these things, like he said, Prof mentioned about Solomonic. Solomonism sometimes requires some very radical and unpopular decisions that will serve the purpose. And there are a few examples in Africa where you see some of those radical people will talk about the human rights issues in Rwanda.